Welcome everyone. I just want to share the link with my students. Okay. Okay, so let's start. Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining today's class. Today we'll be looking at area and perimeter of plane shapes. Okay. So before we start learning about this, good evening, Chem Vibes. You're welcome. Thank you for joining the class. So before we go into solving questions, the first thing we need to know about is what are plane shapes? So when we know what plane shapes are, then we'll now ask ourselves, what does area mean and what does perimeter mean? So the first thing you need to do is understand the terms involved in the topic. Then you can easily solve questions on those topics. Okay. So the first thing we need to know is what are plane shapes? So plane shapes are two-dimensional shapes. Plane shapes are two-dimensional shapes. Two. So dimension is gotten from the word direction. So when you are considering plane shapes, you're only considering two directions. So the two directions considered are length and width. Okay, so they contain only length and width. So when you're considering a plane shape, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so when you're considering a plane shape, you're only considering two dimensions or two directions. The directions or the dimensions are length and width. For example, if you have a shape like this shape is a plane shape. This shape is a plane shape. The reason it's a plane shape is you can only consider this direction, the horizontal direction, and the vertical direction. These are the only two directions that can be considered in this shape, the horizontal direction and the vertical direction. So a combination of these two directions make up this shape we have here. So plane shapes are composed of two directions or two dimensions, the horizontal direction and the vertical direction. So if you have this shape here, one of the characteristics of plane shapes is that you cannot move a plane shape from one point to the other. So if you have a shape like this, and you are told to move it from this point to this point, it's not possible because there is a third dimension that is needed to move a shape. So, but this plane shape is just a flat shape. So plane shapes are flat shapes, right? They cannot be moved from one point to the other. If I position this book here, this book from the where you are looking at looks like the shape I drew along this side and along this side. So it looks like the shape I drew earlier, but this shape is not a plane shape, or this book is not a plane shape. The reason it's not a plane shape is it has a third side that you were not seeing initially. This third side. So the presence of this third side makes this shape to be a solid shape. And because it is a solid shape, I can move it from one point to the other. The presence of this third dimension makes this shape a mobile shape. So I can hold it like this and move it from one point to the other. However, this shape I drew earlier, which is still on the board, I cannot move it out because there is no place my hand can handle. My hand cannot handle anything. So this is a flat shape. And whenever you have a shape like this is a plane shape. Okay? So that's the first thing we need to know. We need to know what a plane shape is. And we've known what a plane shape is now. Okay? Let's look at some examples of plane shapes. Examples of plane shapes. We have one, rectangle, two, square, three, triangle, four, circle, five, trapezium, six, parallelogram, seven, kite, eight, rhombus. So these are some examples of plane shapes. Okay, so all these shapes are flat shapes. All these shapes are two-dimensional shapes. These shapes cannot be moved from one point to the other. Okay, so we've seen what plane shapes are. We've seen some of the examples of plane shapes. Now I would like you to go on your own, probably later on, to find out the features of these plane shapes, how you can identify these plane shapes, their angles, the number of sides, the different components of these plane shapes. Okay, we will not be covering it in this class. Our focus is how to calculate area and perimeter of plane shapes. So now we've seen what plane shapes are. We've seen the different types of plane shapes we are considering. Next, we're going to look at what is the area of a plane shape and what is the perimeter of a plane shape. So when you understand this, then we'll begin to solve the area and perimeter of each of these shapes. Okay? So let's continue. Ture, good evening. Nice to see you in the class today. Welcome, welcome. So next is, what is area of a plane shape? Area. So whenever you are told to calculate the area of a plane shape, you are simply told to find the total space within the plane shape. So area of a plane shape, this is so when you are told to calculate the area of a plane shape, you are simply told, no, cone is not a plane shape. Cone is not a plane shape. Cone is a solid shape. Okay. In subsequent classes, we will be looking at area, surface area, volume of solid shapes. So we're going to consider that. Okay. So the area of a plane shape, this is the entire space within the plane shape. So when you have a plane shape, the space, the empty space within the plane shape is what is called the area of the plane shape. The next is perimeter. So the perimeter of a plane shape is the sum of the lines surrounding the plane shape. The perimeter of a plane shape is the sum of the lines surrounding the plane shape. Okay, so perimeter of a plane shape is different from the area of the plane shape. So when we are talking about area of plane shape, we are talking about the space inside the plane shape. When we are talking about perimeter of the plane shape, we are talking about the sum of the lines surrounding the plane shape. Okay, so we're going to draw a diagram using a square as an example, and we're going to differentiate between perimeter and area. So let's say you have a, let's use a rectangle. Let's say you have a rectangle like this. Now, this rectangle is made up of two components. You can see an empty space inside this rectangle. This empty space is what is called the area. So the empty space inside this rectangle is what is called the area. Then the perimeter is the sum of the four lines surrounding this empty space. So the sum of the four lines is called the perimeter. The space, empty space inside is called the area. The sum of the four lines around that area is called perimeter. So whenever you should know this. So whenever you are told to calculate area, you know what you are told to calculate. Whenever you are told to calculate perimeter, you know what you are told to calculate. Okay, so the understanding of this will help you remember the formula needed to calculate these two things. The screen before me is quite slow, so it's about 2 minutes behind or 3 minutes behind. So I might not be seeing your questions. If you send any message, I might not be seeing it early, but I will try to answer any question that you leave on the comment section. Okay, so now let's start to look at the area of each of those shapes. The first one we're going to start with is a rectangle. Area and perimeter of rectangle. Area and perimeter of a rectangle. So first thing we need to know is, what is a rectangle? Let's draw a rectangle. So a rectangle is a plane shape that has four sides. These four sides are not all equal. However, the opposite sides are equal. So the opposite sides of a rectangle are equal. So this side and this side are equal. This side and this side are equal. Also, we need to understand that all the angles of a rectangle are also equal. So we don't need to consider this when we are looking at area. Our issue is not, we are not bothering about the angles. What we are looking at is the sides. So this longer side is called length. The shorter side is called breadth. Some students in some other countries call it width. So you can either call the shorter side breadth, or you can call it width. Okay. So let me just write it. Okay. So B stands for breadth, L stands for length. Now, for you to calculate the area of this rectangle, remember the area is the space within the rectangle. The area of the rectangle is the space within the rectangle. So let's look at a situation. If you're in a class and you have this situation, okay, and then you have some students seated like this in a class, and you are told to count the number of students in the class. So you can either count them one after the other, or you can count them in some other way. So if I want to count all the students in this class, I can count them as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So there are 12 students in this class by counting one after the other. But another way of doing this, I can simply count the number of students in front and count the number of students at the side. So the number of students in front is 3. The number of students at the side is 4. So once I know the number of students on those two sides, all I need to do is multiply them. 3 multiplied by 4, and that will give me 12. So that gives me the total number of students here. So the same thing applies here. If you are told to calculate the entire space in this rectangle, you can apply this method we did here. Once you know what this is, and once you know what this is, once you multiply them, you will get this entire space. Okay, so that is why the area of a rectangle is length multiplied by breadth. Okay, so to calculate the area of a rectangle, area is equal to length multiplied by. So you can see how the formula is generated. You just need to calculate, know this one, and then you know this one, and then you can calculate the area. So we're going to look at an example at this point. So we can simply say A is equal to L times B. A is equal to L times B. So that's the area. Okay, before we start calculating, let's consider the perimeter. Let's consider the perimeter. So area is equal to length times breadth. We've seen that. Let's consider perimeter. So perimeter, remember we said that the perimeter is the sum of the lines surrounding the plane shape. That means if I want to find out the perimeter of this rectangle, I need to add this side plus this side plus this side plus this side. So once I add all of them together, I've gotten the perimeter of this rectangle. So I can simply say length plus breadth plus breadth. So it is simple. All we need to do is add all the sides together. I can also reduce it to 2 length plus 2 breadth. 2 length plus 2 breadth. So that gives me the perimeter of this rectangle. So now let's look at an example. Calculate Okay. So now let's look at this example. We are told to calculate the area and perimeter of a rectangle with length 12 centimeter and breadth 8 centimeter. So all we need to do is apply the formulas for calculating area of rectangle and perimeter of rectangle. So let's calculate the area first. Area is equal to length multiplied by breadth. We already know that the length is equal to 12 centimeter. The breadth is equal to 8 centimeter. So instead of having length, I'm going to have 12 centimeter multiplied by, instead of having breadth, I'm going to have 8 centimeter. So 12 times 8, 12 times 8, what do we have? 12 times 8, what do we have? 12 times 8. Anybody knows? Or nobody knows? Is there an issue with the comment section? 96. 96. Okay, correct, 96. But now, something that is very important for you to take note, the unit for area and the unit for perimeter. These are two different things. For area, you have a multiplication sign. So that means you're going to multiply this unit, centimeter multiplied by centimeter. Just as you multiply the numbers, you are going to also multiply the units. So centimeter multiplied by centimeter, anything that multiplies itself will give you square. So that's why the unit of area is centimeter squared, because the unit is multiplying the itself, which will give you square of that unit. So area has a unit of square. Okay, good. So let's calculate perimeter. So we've calculated the area. We have 96 centimeters squared. Perimeter. So from the formula we have, the perimeter is 2L plus 2B. Or we can write it as L plus L plus B plus B. Okay, 2L, or let's just write it that way. L plus B plus B. And now we know that L is 12, B is 8. So 12 centimeter plus 12 centimeter plus 8 centimeter plus 8 centimeter. So what are we going to get? 12 plus 12 plus 8 plus 8. What are we going to get? 12 plus 12 plus 8 plus 8. Yeah, I guess Chem Vibes, you're sending answer for area. I guess it's the answer for the area you just sent in. Now we're looking at answer for perimeter. Forty. Good. So 40 But unlike area where we are multiplying, in perimeter we are adding, so the unit remains the same, centimeter. So the perimeter is 40 centimeter. 40 centimeter. Okay, so let's look at another example. So the next example we are going to consider is a situation where you are given the perimeter and you're expected to calculate the area. So sometimes you might be given the perimeter and you're expected to calculate the area. In other times, you might be given the area and you're expected to calculate the perimeter. Let's see how this works. Please, if you have any friends that need to learn all these things, you can share the links to them so that they can learn. Not now, maybe later on, you can share the links to them. So in this situation, we are told to calculate the area of a rectangle with perimeter 50 centimeter and length 15 centimeter. So in this situation, we are expected to calculate the area, but what we are given to calculate the area is not length and width or length and breadth, but we are given perimeter and length. So how do we go about solving for the area? So the first thing we need to do, since we are given the perimeter, we are given the length, then we can find the breadth. Remember, for you to calculate area is equal to length times breadth. So we only know the length, we don't know the breadth. Therefore, we cannot calculate the area. But when you want to calculate the perimeter, we know that perimeter is equal to 2 length plus 2 breadth. So since we know the perimeter over here and we know the length over here, we can calculate the breadth, right? Over here, you cannot calculate area because for you to calculate something unknown, you should not have another unknown in that same equation. In this first equation, you have two unknown values, so you cannot calculate one of those unknowns. But in this situation, we can calculate for B because we know perimeter, we know the length. Okay, so let's do that. We know that P is equal to 50 centimeter and L is equal to 15 centimeter. So we're going to replace P with 50 and we're going to replace L with 15. So 2 into 15 plus 2B. So this will give us 50 is equal to 30 plus 2B. So if we move 30 to the right, we're going to have 50. The plus 30 is going to become minus 30. So we're going to have 50 minus 30 is equal to 2B. So that means 20 is equal to 2. Therefore, for us to get B, we need to divide by 2. So 20 divided by 2 will give you 10. 2 will cancel 2. So B, our breadth is equal to 10 centimeter. Our breadth is equal to 10 centimeter. Okay, so now we've known the breadth, so we can now find the area. We already know the length, So area is equal to length times breadth. Area is equal to the length is 15 centimeter times the breadth is 10 centimeter. So that means the area is equal to 15 multiplied by 10. That will give us 150 centimeter multiplied by centimeter will give us centimeter square. Okay. So this is how to calculate the area when you're given the perimeter. Also, you can calculate the perimeter when you are given the area and one of the two dimensions. So I'd like you to solve a question on that. So if you're in the WhatsApp group, or if you're in the WhatsApp group, you can take this assignment, solve it, and then send a picture of what you've solved to me. Just give me a moment. Okay. To solve this question, if you're in the WhatsApp group, you can send me your answer to it. So this is the first question for as an assignment. Okay, so let's continue. So next, we are looking at area and perimeter of a square. Area and perimeter of a square. Hello, Edigo. Nice to see you in the class. Hope you're here with your writing materials. So area and perimeter of a square or of square. Okay. So a square is like a rectangle. They look alike, but the difference between a square and a rectangle is for a square, all the sides are equal. Unlike the rectangle where two opposite sides are equal, for a square, all the four sides are equal. So here is length, here is length, here is length, and here is length. So all the sides are equal. So that means for us to calculate the area of this square, area is equal to length multiplied by length. Just as we did for a rectangle where we did length multiplied by breadth, but here, since all the sides are equal, it is length multiplied by length. Okay? Next, what will be the perimeter of this this square, the perimeter will be length plus length plus length plus length. The perimeter is going to be length plus length plus length plus length. And now you can also write it as 4 length or 4 times length. So sometimes students confuse how to calculate area and perimeter of rectangle and area and perimeter of square. You should take note of this so you don't confuse the two. Always remember that for a square, all the sides are equal. So now let's look at an example. So apart from the normal days of Mondays and Wednesdays and Fridays, I will be notifying you guys on some extra days when I'll be having classes, because I know there are some topics that are very basic. People might not demand for those topics. Like a topic like this, many persons might not remember to request for topics like this because it's something that many people already know. So another example is, for example, if you want to learn about factors, multiples, all those kind of simple topics, or in quotes, simple topics, many persons might not request for it in the group. So I'm going to be having extra classes for those who want to learn those topics that are not actually requested for. Okay, so now let's look at an example. So we're expected to calculate the area and perimeter of a square with length 12 centimeter. Okay, so let's calculate the area. Area, we know that area is equal to length multiplied by length. Our length is equal to 12 centimeter. So that means area is equal to 12 centimeter multiplied by 12 centimeter. So what would that give us? 12 centimeter multiplied by 12 centimeter. What would that give us? Chem Vibes, you already sent the answer to me. You should have waited because in this other one, I'm going to give another question. But it's okay. It's okay. So what's the answer? 12 multiplied by 12? I think for some of you, the thing is delaying. So let me just go ahead and write the answer. 12 multiplied by 12 is 144. And centimeter multiplied by centimeter is centimeter squared. Okay. So now we've calculated the area of this square to be 144 centimeters squared. But how about the perimeter? So perimeter, we know that perimeter is equal to length plus length plus length plus length. Or we can say 4 lengths, which is 12 centimeter plus 12 centimeter plus 12 centimeter plus 12 centimeter. So 12 plus 12 is 24. Yeah, 4 length, correct. So you can just write it like this, or you can just write 4 times 12. 4 times 12, and that will give us 48 centimeters. So for this particular square, the area is 144 centimeters square. The perimeter is 48 centimeters. So for those of you that are in the WhatsApp group, I'm going to inform you when we are going to have the next class on area and perimeter of plane shapes, because we cannot exhaust the topic. In our next class, we're going to look at area and perimeter of a triangle. It's going to be a very interesting one, because many people only know how to calculate area of a triangle when you're given the height and the base. But what if you have a situation where you're given all three sides? How do you calculate the area? So we're also going to look at that. When you're given all three sides of the triangle, how do you calculate the area of that triangle? So that will be in our next class. Okay, so let's look at the last example for today. So here we are told to calculate the area of a square when you're given the perimeter to be 64 centimeter. In this example, let's write meter. We've been using centimeter. Let's use meter. Okay, so some persons will not assume that you only have centimeter. It can be any unit. It doesn't have to be centimeter. Okay, so 64 meters. So here we are given the perimeter. We're expected to find the area. So first of all, for us to do that, we remember that for us to get the area, we need area is equal to length times length. That means all we need to find area is to know the length. But we don't know the length. We only know the perimeter. Perimeter is equal to 4 length. So that means if we know the perimeter, we can find the length, and we know the perimeter. So perimeter is equal to 64 meters. So we can replace P with 64. So 64 is equal to 4 length. So all we need to do, correct? Just another guy. All we need to do is divide both sides by 4. 4 will cancel out 4. 64 divided by 4 will give us 16. So our length is equal to 16 centimeters. So we've seen that the length of this square is 16 centimeters. So now we know the length, we can find the area. Area is equal to length times length. Now we know length is equal to 16 centimeters, so area is equal to 16 centimeters multiplied by 16 centimeters. Area is equal to 16 multiplied by 16. Okay, just another guy has given us the answer, 256 centimeters square. 256 centimeters square. That gives us the answer to this particular question. So from what we've learned today, you can see that it's easy to find the area of a rectangle. It's easy to find the area of a square. We've also seen that you can find the area of the rectangle when you are given the perimeter and one side of the rectangle. You can also find the perimeter when you are given the area and one side of the rectangle. We also saw here that for a square, you can find the area once you are given the perimeter. So once you are given the perimeter of the square, you can find the area. You don't need to know any of the sides. From the perimeter, you can find the side and you can then find the area. So I'd like you to solve this second assignment as we round off today. So how many students came from the WhatsApp group? Is everybody from the WhatsApp group? Or is there any person that is not from the WhatsApp? So second assignment for today. Okay. So we're expected to calculate the perimeter of a square with area 169 centimeter square. 169 centimeter square. Okay, so we've come to the end of today's class. We've come to the end of today's class. Thank you, everyone. I try to make sure that the class is not more than 1 hour, so that those who will be watching it subsequently will not be discouraged to see that the class is too long. Even the 1 hour, many persons might be avoiding to spend their data to watch a very long video. But there's a way you can reduce the quality of the video, therefore reducing the amount of data that you're spending watching the video. So you can reduce the quality of the video, probably to 200 and something quality, so you can watch it. You can, you can. I think I'll need to do a video on that. So I'll show the persons on my WhatsApp group how you can reduce the quality of the video and then watch for longer period. Okay, so thank you for being with me in today's class. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, thank you, thank you. See you in the next class. I will inform you when we'll continue with this particular special or extra class. I will inform you. So we'll continue next week. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. Have a wonderful day or have a wonderful evening. Adios.